Hello Sprue Commandos, I want to say thank you for watching this video all the way through, please. Today I'm showing you my P-40 Tiger Shark build. It's a standard Revell kit from the 80s, which means it has some fitment issues, but the decals were in good shape, and I decided to make an extremely worn P-40 Tiger Shark. This plane is modeled after one that belonged to the Flying Tigers, which was a volunteer air force in China. Look at this glorious box art. I gotta say, in the end, this was a fun build. Since this is an old Revell kit, the sprues are simple, and I was expecting the fit to be mediocre. Every piece needed lines removed and sanding. Every piece. I started on the fuselage and the cockpit. It's pretty simple inside. I did a test fit with the cockpit floor and both halves of the fuselage. If you look close, you can see gaps along the whole length of the plane's body. Sanding would help a little. The nose cone was a rough fit too. Are you seeing a pattern yet? The gun barrel doesn't match with the cowling either. Revell placed injector pin marks on the outside of the wings because, well, they're Revell. Some sanding removes the pin marks and the raised rivets. I honestly don't bother with rivets like this, so I just moved on. The underside of the tail wing is just as bad. We'll just keep going though. One nice feature of this kit are the flaps and the hinges they rely on. Some careful gluing here and they can be moved after the plane is assembled. These old school kits come with seams everywhere. Be warned. The landing gear doors are strange. The big door has no locating pin, while the small doors do. Go figure. The wings haven't been glued together, so I took the opportunity to add some detail to the wheel areas. I cut up a truck bed cover from another kit so it would fit in the wing, under the landing gear holes. Next was the extended tank. The box art shows lines running from the tank, so I added them to the best of my ability with styrene rods. This was all done by eye. Now we are getting to the fun part, painting. I airbrushed the inside flaps with Tamiya Cockpit Green, also known as XF71. The gauge panel was done in Tamiya Flat Black, or XF1. I then did a dry brush of silver over the gauge surface to highlight the high parts. Finally, a splash of red based on pictures from a real plane. Moving on, I started to detail the cockpit surfaces. This is one of my favorite things to do. This leads to the pilot seat and a set of belts I made. I then stained them with heavily watered down Tamiya flat earth. Next was putting the body together. Naturally, the kit has other ideas about making this a smooth process, as you can see from the huge gaps in the wing roots. To fill these, I felt putty or superglue would bring too much sanding, so I used strips of styrene and shaped them to fit. Other parts of the body needed attention and scraping. All the odd gaps, like the curves, I filled with thick CA glue and sanded when they were dry. I sanded the rough fit on the nose cone down and had to redo the panel lines. I gotta tell you, I hate doing panel lines. Can anyone, please, recommend a good way to do this? The targeting reticle is one of those pieces you know are going to get lost. So, to prep the body for paint, I install the canopy plastic and mask it with removable vinyl. I then use a lighter carefully along the curved areas of the canopy. The vinyl heats up and grabs the curve. Here are my two birds ready for primer. The other is an A36 I'll do a video on later. I stuffed the landing gear holes with sponge for masking. And then the plane was shot with Krylon white primer. I always warm the can up with hot tap water and it lays beautifully. To get a realistic paint effect, I always go with black shading on top of the white primer. Just use an airbrush with the finest needle you can get and paint black lines following the panels of the plane. Your lines don't have to be perfect. When the black dries, it's time for the color coat. This has to be thin and done in multiple thin coats. I couldn't get olive drab, so I had to mix green and red-brown to make it. I've got to say, any Tamiya flat color lays really well with my cheap airbrush. This is 3 to 4 thin coats later. Now that the paint is dried, I can do some chipping effects with Tamiya's flat aluminum, aka XF16. I get a torn sponge, wipe it on a towel, and then stipple the wear surfaces of the plane with the sponge. I rotate the sponge so as I stipple, you get a random wear effect. Don't push too hard though, let the texture of the sponge do the work. When that is all dry, I shot the whole body in gloss acrylic by Vallejo. I like the Vallejo gloss because it's real neutral towards decals. The gaping maw of the tiger shark is the pride of the model in my opinion. And Revell did a great job making the mouth fit over a complex curve in one piece. I used microset and sol with a sharp X-Acto to pop bubbles. The same was done for the PRC rundles on the wings, and they laid real nice with the microsol. After all the decals were applied and dried for a day, I shot the body in Vallejo matte clear to give it an aged look. That about wraps up this build. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more.